Happy to meet you all for this session. Guys, anatomy, it's a very easy subject and you can easily score mark in it, isn't it? Okay. So some of you might be first year students. Some of you might be like preparing to write your NEET PG or INICT. And some of you might have started early preparation for your NEET PG beginning from the first clinical. So what is the difference you notice while you read anatomy when you did it for your first MBBS and when you prepare for NEET PG? When you read anatomy for first MBBS, you would have flipped through almost all the pages in your textbook. But for your NEET PG or ANICET, you don't have enough time. Okay? So the best way to prepare anatomy for your NEET PG or ANICET examinations, is to concentrate more on previous year questions and high yield topics. Whatever competitive examination it might be, anatomy, definitely there's going to be maximum of 14 questions. Okay. So if you find something very difficult and hard and you don't know, okay, it is fine. But if it's going to be very simple one, a basic thing, and still if you make a mistake, you cannot excuse yourself, isn't it? So of the 14 questions in anatomy, 12 questions is definitely going to be image-based questions. Okay. So in your first MBBS, you might not have gone through all the images. So to get all those image-based questions right, that is the aim of this webinar series. So each slide, there's going to be an image, a question, and the answer you have to give for it. And please register for all the upcoming webinars also. By the end of all these 5 webinars, I'm damn sure you'll be thorough with all the important image-based questions and you can confidently face your exam. Okay. So as I told you, each slide we are going to answer an image-based question. And this is not going to be more of a teaching sort of webinar, right? As I told you, every slide is going to be a question. We are going to do it together. Shall we start? So you can make it interactive. You can enter the answers in the chat box for the questions as we do it, okay? Of course, one more important point to remember as you go through your PYQs and high yield topic. So each option you see there, right? Each option, it may not be the answer for that appropriate question, but each option is important. It might be the answer for another question. Okay. So the question, the image, and every option that is important. I'll move on to the next question. During posterior abdominal wall surgery, a structure essential for powerful hip flexion is compromised at its femoral attachment. To which of the label part it is attached? I'll read this question again for you. During posterior abdominal wall surgery, which muscle of the posterior abdominal wall is the chief flexor of your hip joint? Can you enter in the chat box? A muscle of the posterior abdominal wall that is a powerful hip flexor, chief flexor. Give me the name of the muscle, Ashwini. Name of the muscle. It is the psoas major, right? Psoas major is the chief flexor of the hip joint. It's a muscle of the posterior abdominal wall. Now, come on, tell me what are these bony landmarks? B is lesser trochanter. A is anterior surface of the greater trochanter. Recently, over the past few years, they are giving a lot of bony landmarks. Okay. So C is again greater trochanter. Yes, it's lateral surface. And D is trochanteric fossa. Where does the psoas major insert into of ABCD? ABCD, where does the psoas major insert into? Very good, Dr. Ashwini. It's the lesser trochanter, right? It is the lesser trochanter. Okay. Can you tell me? Yes, What inserts into the anterior surface of the greater trochanter? That's again an important question. Anterior surface of the greater trochanter receives the insertion of gluteus minimus. Okay. Lateral surface of the greater trochanter receives the insertion of gluteus medius. Trochanteric fossa receives the insertion of, yeah, obturata internus, superior gemelli, inferior gemelli, even obturata externus. Okay. Apex of the greater trochanter. Can you tell me what inserts? The piriformis. Please remember the attachments to the greater trochanter and lesser trochanter is of utmost importance. Okay. Moving on to the next question. The pointed nerve in image A innervates which muscle in image B? I'll just zoom it. So this is again an important image. What is it actually? You're getting to see the nerves, the cranial nerves in the base of the skull. Can you identify which cranial nerve is marked here? Which cranial nerve is marked in this image? I'll zoom the picture a bit. Okay. So here, this is your olfactory, the cribriform plate for the olfactory nerve rootlets. Can you make out the second cranial nerve, the optic nerve here? Okay. And over here, this is your third cranial nerve, oculomotor nerve. This slender one that you see here, that's the fourth nerve. You know, the thinnest of the cranial nerve is the fourth nerve. Any one of you can tell me what is the fourth nerve innervate? The fourth cranial nerve innervates which muscle of the eyeball? Excellent. Superior oblique, right? Superior oblique, okay? And this is the thickest of all the cranial nerves, the fifth cranial nerve, okay? And over here, this is your abducent nerve. In the internal acoustic meatus, you're able to see the seventh and eighth. This is the jugular foramina with 9, 10, 11. And over here will be your hypoglossal nerve lower down, rootlets of the 12th nerve. I'll show you a nice bigger image here. You can see it better, right? So the optic nerve. Okay, this is again very important question. Cranial nerves in the skull. The oculomotor nerve. Okay, this is the fourth nerve. This is the fifth cranial nerve, the thickest of all cranial nerves. You can make out the sixth, seventh, eighth, 9, 10, 11 in the jugular foramen. And over here, these are the rootlets of the 12th cranial nerve. Now, come on, tell me, what is the cranial nerve marked in this image? The cranial nerve that's marked in this image is cranial nerve 7. Okay, 7, 7, 7. You have 7 and then 8. Okay, Dr. Ikwa? You can see here. This is your seventh nerve. This is the eighth cranial nerve. The one that's marked is the seventh cranial nerve. Now let us identify A, B, C, D here. Can you make out the hyoid bone here? Can one of you tell me what is the vertebral level of hyoid bone? Yes, you can enter in the chat box. What is the vertebral level of hyoid? Which cervical vertebra? Hyoid is in the neck, right? It corresponds to the, yes, C3 cervical vertebra. Okay. The position of the hyoid is C3. Now, what are these muscles you see above the hyoid? Can you identify? This is your anterior belly of digastric. This is the posterior belly of digastric. Okay. What is B? This is your mylohyoid. Mylohyoid muscle. The mylohyoid of both the sides together, they join, they form the floor of the mouth. What do you call it? Do you remember the mylohyoid of both the sides together? What do you call it? It's called the diaphragma oris, right? It supports the tongue in the floor of the mouth, mylohyoid. Above the posterior belly of digastric, what you see here is the stylohyoid muscle. right? I call it as the SPB muscle. S is above, PB is below. Stylohyoid is above, posterior belly of digastric is below, right? And this, of course, is your sternocleidomastoid muscle. What is A? Can one of you tell me what is A here? A. Very good, Dr. Hari Krishnan. Yes, that's the platysma muscle. Okay. Now, of these, yeah, okay, it's not the masseter. It is the platysma, which is the subcutaneous muscle. Okay, it arises opposite the sternal angle. It's going to form the roof for the posterior triangle as well as the anterior triangle, right? Where does it insert, the platysma? It inserts into the mandible, okay? Right. Of these four muscles, which are the ones which are going to be innervated by the seventh cranial nerve? Yes? Anyone? What are the muscles innervated by the seventh cranial nerve in this image? A is platysma, B is mylohyoid, C is posterior belly of digastric, D is sternocleidomastoid, isn't it? The platysma and the posterior belly of digastric are innervated by the seventh cranial nerve. Can I tell you one easy way to, can you tell me the facial nerve is the nerve of which pharyngeal arch? Seventh cranial nerve is the nerve of which pharyngeal arch? Very good, Siam. It's the nerve of the second pharyngeal arch. Okay. Easy way to remember the muscles innervated by the facial nerve. There are 7 groups. Okay. You can do it to me together with me together. What are the muscles of scalp? Do you remember what are the muscles of scalp? Anyone? In the gallia. What are the muscles there? Occipitofrontalis, isn't it? So the muscles of the scalp. Muscles of the auricle, do you have an idea? Auricularis anterior, superior and posterior. The muscles of the scalp, the muscles of the ear, the subcutaneous muscles of the face, the subcutaneous muscle of the neck, right? And within the middle ear cavity, which muscle is innervated by facial nerve? Within the middle ear cavity, which muscle is innervated by facial nerve? Name the muscle. Muscle within the middle ear innervated by facial nerve. Come on. Yes. Stapedius. Yes, Disha. Very good. Okay. Stapedius. Right. Stapedius. And then this SPB muscle. Okay. You can just write it down so that you'll never forget it. Cranial nerve 7 innervates 7 group of muscles. Muscles, the subcutaneous muscles of the scalp, of auricle, of face, of neck, right? Stapedius, stylohyoid, and posterior belly of digastric. The nerve of the second pharyngeal arch, right? 7 groups of muscles. Seventh nerve, 7 groups of muscles. Subcutaneous muscle of the scalp, auricle, face, neck, stapedius, and SPB muscle. Okay? Again, in abdomen, one question that which the examiner is very much fascinated about is relations, especially kidney duodenum. Can you help me answer this question? Which of the following viscera related to the marked area of the left kidney? Yes, the options are given. It's the left kidney, right? Yes, please come on. Yeah. Whether it's the spleen or the stomach. So I'll zoom it a bit. Okay. This was again a previous year question. So here, the right kidney, above it is related to the suprarenal gland. Over the hilum, it is related to the second part of duodenum. Okay. Over here, it is related to the liver. And here will be the coils of jejunum. And over here, the hepatic flexure. where the ascending colon becomes continuous with the transverse colon. Relations to the right kidney. Coming to the left kidney, again here you'll have the suprarenal gland. This is the spleen. Related to the spleen, over here, hilum, tail of the pancreas. This is the area where it is related to the stomach. Again here, coils of jejunum, and over here, splenic flexure, where the transverse colon becomes continuous with the descending colon. Again, okay, the relations of the kidney anterior, posterior, the relations of the duodenum are again very, very, very important, right? Can I move on to the next question? This was again your PYQ. Neuroanatomy also, they keep asking in one question, 2 to 3 images keep coming. Okay. So what is this image A? What is this image B? Image B is a horizontal section of the cerebrum. What is image A? Can you help me? Which part of the brainstem is shown in image A? Is it medulla, or is it pons, or is it midbrain? How you are going to identify it? Yes, and there's one important clue here in this diagram. How many cranial nerves are there? There are 12 cranial nerves, isn't it? Okay. Which is the only cranial nerve that exits from the dorsal surface of the brainstem? Anyone? The only cranial nerve that exits from the dorsal surface of the brainstem. Excellent, excellent, Dr. Jyoti. So what you see here is the cranial nerve 4. So which part of the brainstem is it here? This is the, yes, midbrain, right? This is the midbrain. Okay, yes, Dr. Shyam, this is the midbrain. Another important clue, what you see here, what connects the third ventricle and the fourth ventricle traversing through the midbrain? Connecting the third ventricle and the fourth ventricle traversing through the midbrain. What is the name given to that? The duct. It's your cerebral aqueduct, right? It's the cerebral aqueduct. Very good, Dr. Vilchi. Okay. Another important clue here that you see for midbrain. Yes, can you tell me? What is this? This pigmented area, this is your substantia nigra. Okay, rich in dopamine, depletion of dopamine leading to Parkinsonism. That is this area, substantia nigra. Okay, so this again midbrain at the level of inferior colliculus, and the pointed structure is the substantia nigra. Can we see this horizontal section of the brain now? Okay, so this is your frontal, this is occipital, right? I'll just explain it here. This is what is marked as A is your corpus callosum, right? Can you appreciate the corpus callosum here? Okay. And here, this cavity here is the lateral ventricle. What separates the lateral ventricle, the right and left lateral ventricle? This partition is the septum pellucidum. And anyone can tell me what is this bundle here? This white matter bundle here is the fornix. That's the fornix. Okay. And this is the region of your third ventricle. What is present on either side of the third ventricle? This gray matter is the thalamus. Okay. Now, here, this gray matter that you see here in the floor of the lateral ventricle, this is the caudate nucleus. Okay. And what is labeled here? This one here, B is your putamen, C is the globus pallidum. Yes, doctor, you're right. Okay. Outer is putamen and inner is globus pallidum. Okay. As I told you, This is your caudate nucleus. This is thalamus. What is this here? What I'm showing in green color. That's again an important point, right? Very good, Dr. Jyoti. That's the internal capsule. Internal capsule. The anterior limb of the internal capsule, right? The genu, the posterior limb. Okay. Can you make out this wavy band of gray matter here? What is this wavy band of gray matter called? That's the claustrum. The white matter that is inner to the claustrum is called the external capsule, and outer to the wavy band it's called the extreme capsule. Guys, since it is an important image for you, I'll just redo the labelings again. You can do it with me together, right? So this is your corpus callosum. You can make out the caudate nucleus. You can make out the thalamus, the putamen, globus pallidum, the claustrum. Alright. This cavity is the lateral ventricle. This is the region of the third ventricle. And this is your internal capsule. Okay. Now, yes, we have been labeling A, B, C, D. Okay, this was B and this was C. Now my question. Substantia nigra projects to which part? Either putamen or globus pallidum. Can you tell me to which part of the basal nuclei does the substantia nigra project to? Yes, basal nuclei, all the afferents reach the putamen. Okay, so please remember this is one tricky question. All the afferents, they reach the putamen. The efferents, they begin from the globus pallidum, right?